Infrastructure Committee. Congresswoman, welcome. When I spoke to you on this program about a month ago, you said that our president needed to show more strength with regard to supporting Ukraine. Do you think that he has done that in the months since we last talked?
Well, Congress has certainly been taking the lead here and pushing for so much more support, whether it be monetary support or military support to Ukraine. And certainly we've been able to accomplish many things. You're seeing more U.S. sanctions placed on whether it's Putin's family members or other companies that are doing business. We've officially removed the Russian banking system. And also we suspended trade. And that was a major thing that Congress had passed. But what you should be seeing right now from the President of the United States is what you saw from the British Prime Minister, what you saw from the Austrian Chancellor, where they were in Ukraine meeting with President Zelensky. That is true leadership, and that is leading from the front. Instead, unfortunately, while they were there meeting with President Zelensky in person, our president was in Delaware once again hiding in the basement.
The U.S. has sent more than $3 billion worth of aid to the Ukrainians. What else should we be doing, in your view?
Well, we're certainly seeing some progress here with our NATO allies, a tremendous amount of support, whether it be weapons or defense systems, anti-tank systems, that are making its way to Ukraine, which is why you're seeing how Russia has now sort of took a step back here and now moving east away from Kyiv because of the strength that we've been able to provide the Ukrainians and because of their passion in fighting for their country. We're seeing today also that Slovakia, which is a very small nation, so this is a very brave move for them to provide the S-300 missile defense system. And they probably have the biggest thing at stake right now because they are such a small country to the west of Ukraine, and they are a NATO ally. And so we certainly want to make sure that this is stopped in Ukraine and that doesn't spill over into NATO territory. So the United States will be backfilling Slovakia's defense system so they can also protect themselves.
General Wesley Clark is the former NATO top commander. He wrote this as part of an op-ed in the New York Post. He writes, Ukraine needs heavy weapons and air support, tanks, multiple launch rockets, I should say, and self-propelled artillery, air support, MiGs and Sukhoi aircraft, and mobile air defense. They need hundreds of thousands of 152-millimeter artillery rounds. The U.S. supplied Javelins and Stingers are necessary, but no longer sufficient. He goes on. Why? Because there is a window of opportunity now, for a week or two perhaps, in which Ukraine can counterattack in the north, south, and east to expel Russian forces. This will require mobile armored forces and air power, and if this window is lost, the future is darker and more uncertain. Again, that from General Wesley Clark, a guy who knows a thing or two about military operations. Are they reading that at the White House?
Well, you know, we've been advocating, many of us, in a bipartisan fashion, particularly on the Foreign Affairs Committee, for the MiGs to be provided to Ukraine and that the United States transfer our jets to whichever country has those MiGs and is willing to do it. And Poland had offered, but the president had declined this offer for some reason. The S-300s, I think, is also a very important thing, and now that Slovakia is providing them with that, that will be very helpful. But I do agree that there is a window of opportunity here, and you're seeing weakness in the Russian army. They've lost approximately about 15,000 soldiers. It's estimated by NATO that's about 40,000 soldiers that have been either killed or wounded. And so that is a tremendous victory for the Ukrainian people who, in their defense, because remember, they were outmanned, they were out weaponed, they were out tanked, and because of the support that they're receiving from NATO, they've been able to put up this fight. You know, most people thought they wouldn't last a week, and here we are well into a month of this, and you're seeing Ukraine, but they need support. And we also need to send a clear message that anybody will be brought up, anybody who helps kill civilians will be brought up on war crimes. Everyone from planning to those who are carrying these missiles to those who are launching these missiles. And that is something we haven't heard from the President of the United States that we should.
Unfortunately, it appears Vladimir Putin doesn't really seem to care how many of his soldiers he loses during this horrible war. Quickly on inflation, you're on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. What is the most important thing that you think President Biden should do to try to bring down the rate of inflation we're seeing now?
Well, I think the president has to stop any spending that doesn't have to do with either infrastructure, defense, or security of this nation. They are continuously looking to spend more money on the backs of hardworking American taxpayers. If you look at our open borders policy right now, millions of people that are crossing into our country that the American taxpayers paying for attorneys, for housing, for health care, and all sorts of additional spending, flights to go to various cities. That is completely unfair to the hardworking taxpayer during this economic pressure. You're also seeing the president, what he really should be doing is also ramping up energy production, because energy costs hurt everything else, right? And not just it fuels. Right now we have supply chain issues, but when you look at the food prices, when you look at gas prices, when you look at heating costs, these are things that are all driven by energy. And we've been pushing for some time for him to repeal his executive orders that have increased the cost of energy prices for American families that are struggling to get by, or just put gas in their car to get to work, or put food on the table. So those are the things I think the president needs to focus on. And we need to slow down spending. The budget that he has introduced for next year is very problematic. Many tens of trillions of dollars in new taxes over the next decade, and about 65% increase in spending over the next decade. Completely unsustainable.
Also likely that those millions of illegal immigrants are going to be competing for jobs and pushing down wages, especially at the lowest end of the economic spectrum. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, Republican of New York, thanks for coming on. Be sure to stay with Fox News Channel as we